Well, Pointer fans, welcome back to Wisdom Wednesday. It's been a couple of weeks. 2 weeks ago, we had Amanda Nahuda Bailey on, National Player of the Year. And how great was that to hear from her and what it took to be a local athlete, to work her way all the way, to be the National Player of the Year and a national champ and back to the Final Four. Great to hear from her. Took last week off with the holiday, and now we're back. And this is the first time we've done it in this format, but I thought we'd bring on two of the Mount Rushmore men's basketball players at UW-Stevens Point. I'm honored this week. I've got two guys here who had opportunities to win back-to-back national championships. Nick Bennett's with us. Nick was part of both both of these guys were part of the 05 and 04 national championship runs. Won 3 WIC championships and 2 conference titles. 103-18 during that time, guys. Jason Kelsow's with us as well. We're going to hear from Jason and Nick as we go. Nick, during your time, 2004 Final Four most valuable player, D3 All-American, scored 1,646 points. Rumor has it you're 3 points shy of being second all time. I think that's probably Coach Semling's fault, right? He was an assistant on your senior year team. So somebody needed to nudge your head coach and say, hey, we got to get this guy 4 more points. 2-time first team All-WIAC, an inductee to the 2010 Hall of Fame here at UWSB. Came back, was our assistant coach, and recruited a class that won another national championship. I don't think you get enough credit for that. When you were an assistant, that team won the 2010 title and moved on, went to Marquette, won another national championship at UW-Whitewater. And I'll say that's only because of your influence at Stevens Point. You brought a little bit of point to Whitewater. Went to Florida Gulf Coast, where University of Texas Pan America, spent some time as a high-level assistant coach, only to take on 4 years ago the Racine St. Kate's job, a heralded high school job here in Wisconsin. In your 4 years, 80-18, including being 25-0 this year. I will say it because I know you won't. You were on the fast track to a state championship in Racine. And your kids, I got a chance to see you play a couple times, did a great job this year and have since you've been there. Great to have you back. And we've also got Jason Kelso coming with us from California. It's early out there, Jason, so thanks for joining us. He just flew back last night. Jason's our all-time leading scorer, still is, and rebounder. Think about that, you guys. He's our all-time leading scorer and rebounder, 1,859 points. I'm not sure that's going to be touched for a while. 883 rebounds, was second-team All-American as a junior, first team as a senior, was the 2005 National Player of the Year, was on the D3 Hoops All-Decade team. Probably best known for hitting the game-winning shot in the 2004 National Championship game. Was an inductee to our Hall of Fame in 2010 and then moved on to play professionally in Iceland. Did that, earned a Euro Cup berth, and then said, it's time to coach. So he came back here and coached with us for a few years, got us to the NCAA tournament as an assistant, moved on to Green Bay and then Toledo. Tremendous job at both of those places, including an NIT bid, a couple of times to the MAC championship there at Toledo, and inducted, obviously, as I've said, to the 2010 class, and is married to a former college basketball player and current sideline reporter. So basketball bleeds deep with these two fellas. Guys, how are you doing? I'm going to start with you both. Nick, why don't you get us started? What you been up to? Where have you been? And how are you guys doing?
Teaching. I'm a teacher first, so it's our last week of online learning. That's kept us busy. Obviously, like everyone out there, we're adjusting to this new reality of isolation, getting to be at home a lot more, but it's given me a chance to hang out with my daughter a lot more, who's going to be 2 here in 3 days. So spending a lot more time with her has been wonderful. But as the weather's starting to turn, it's nice to get outside a little bit, but everyone's adjusted to this new reality. Teaching wise, socially, but it's been all right since I've been surrounded by my wife and my daughter.
And a new beard, as we've talked about a little bit there. Jason, how about you? How are things out in California?
First of all, thanks for having us on, Brett. Everything's great. Working from home, fortunate to still have a gig as a team dealer, going around to high schools and colleges and getting all their apparel and gear needs. And then also coaching at Windward School out here in the LA area. Our guys, we jump on Zoom meetings with them, check in on them quite a bit. But honestly, just like Nick said, enjoying time with my wife. Our lives were kind of a rat race for 6-7 years while she was in the NBA and I was coaching at the D1 level. So that, that took a toll as far as travel and things like that. So it's been nice just to kind of be home, doing a lot of cooking. But also it's California, so I'm burning it off. I am going out for runs, Nick.
I'll if we have time, I'll share your story, your first 2-mile run.
Well, that's what inspires me these days.
I have a sense that might come out. So, fellas, this is what, we haven't done it with 2 before, so I'm going to just kind of set the guideline. Our fans want to hear from you. Our players want to hear from you. I certainly am excited to hear from you in terms of what this meant. And I thought it'd be interesting to go back and talk a little bit chronologically. We all know, or at least we read and we see your pictures on the wall with a couple of championships. And, hopefully as your kids get older, your teams sass off, you just pull out a couple of rings and walk in the gym and remind them that, hey, you guys, we got this done here a little bit. But, I want to start with your freshman year and then kind of move forward into the last game. Take us back. Your freshman year, you guys come in, you both have an impact right away. You win, 21 games and you lose in the WIC semifinals. You had a great year, but you didn't quite get the NCAA tournament. You didn't win a championship. What kind of drive, how did that first year transition to point feel for you two?
Go for it, Jason.
I mean, I'll start, but obviously Nick was, around the culture before I was. What do they call it? Did they still call it redshirting back then, or was it still called?
I was one of the last classes to redshirt.
Yeah. So Nick had an idea. I came in really wet behind the ears, not knowing what to expect, and kind of coming in cocky. You think I had a good high school team and good high school career, and thinking you can play. And then some of the guys were just massive. I mean, we had some very, very big, strong guys, just really good players. So my whole thing was I wanted to play. I was too naive to know about redshirting and how that could benefit somebody. So my whole thing was to play, and whatever I could do that's what I tried to do. And so that first year for me, I mean, I think I was just a rebounder, kind of a hustle guy, didn't look to score a lot. Try to set everybody up, but really just do whatever I could to get on the floor. But the culture was obviously set because coming in, I mean, I think opening weekend, I think I unpacked my stuff and guys were organizing team games, and so that was incredible because from day one we were playing, and it was great, honestly, to take that humble beating right away because guys just were better and they had won. The culture had been established. So that's the unique part about my freshman year is you're not coming into a rebuild. You're not coming into like a new coach, something like that. It was established, and it was like, okay, you better wake up or you're going to get run over here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my experience is obviously a little different, obviously. And Jason, I did redshirt. I was not mentally ready to play. I was not physically ready to play. Jason was ready to play when he came. That's the reason why he was a starter as a freshman, where I sat out a year. Then my freshman year of playing, I was, like the 8th or 9th guy. I would play a few minutes a game. But yeah, like Jason said, the culture is what was established well before we started playing. This is going back to the 70s, 80s, obviously through the 90s of Pointer basketball, where you knew if you were coming into it, you're coming into a program where you need to be ready to play. And it is a mental and physical thing. I wasn't ready for either. I needed a year just to put on weight. I needed a year just to understand what it took to compete at the college level, where Jason did come in more ready than that. Not conditioning-wise. That took him a few months to get ready conditioning-wise. Prefontaine was not pretty out there on the 2-mile run. But on the court, he definitely was. Skill-wise, he absolutely was. And mentality-wise, he was. So he came in a little bit more ready from that standpoint. Obviously, that's a lot to do with his upbringing, his parents, his high school coaches and whatnot. But if you're going to play as a freshman in college basketball, you've got to be ready for it.
So then you guys, you have another off season. Nick, for you, it's kind of your second off season coming off redshirt year. But you come off your first season, and you guys together, and I hear the law. You're right. I've been here for 4 years now, and I hear all the mystique of what the Pointer basketball was during that time and continues to be. You guys come into your second year together, and you win 24 games, but get beat in the WIC tournament again, and don't earn that automatic bid. So you got to kind of sit around and wait, knowing the year before you probably should have gotten in and didn't, so now you're waiting and you get the bid, you get a home game, you get Gustavus Adolphus at home, and you get upset. And I know it was a great year, but again, not necessarily where you guys and your mindset and what Pointer mindset, where we were going to go under your guys' time. Talk to us about that second year and how impactful it was for you, to win a bunch of games, to make an NCAA tournament and feel that, that feeling to be in the tournament for the first time.
You start, Jason.
Well, first of all, I have to go back to that whole conditioning thing, Brad. I don't mean to cut you off because nobody told me during my recruiting process that we're going to have a class where we had to go to the track and run. Well, I said I got recruited by Coach Bennett, not Coach Witt, right? Like, what? We're running through nature. I've never run through a forest before, through Schmeekley, and I don't think I lost too many sprints. I'll tell you that. When we were on the basketball court, you put a ball in my hand, then I'll try to take your heart. But the whole running around the track, like, I'm okay if I lose that. I'm not here to win a 2-mile race. But back to the sophomore year. I think like Nick said, we all just matured. We were all playing a little more. We had the nucleus, and we honestly had a really, really good player that, he could go off anytime he wanted to, in Josh Israelof, and he's in the Point Hall of Fame. I mean, you're talking about a guy who scored. He did it twice, right, Nick? He scored 40 twice that his senior year. I mean, he was incredible. But I think we relied on him maybe a little too much as still being young, if that makes sense. I don't know, and really got into the tournament. The one thing about the WIC, that prepared you for the NCAA tournament, because there were so many good teams, and I know my position especially, I was going up against All-Americans every night. There was 3 of them that sophomore year, and Tim Dvorak, Aubrey Lewis Byers, Tyler Selk, and then obviously Rich Melzer was a National Player of the Year. I mean, you're looking at 4 guys right there. So that prepares you for the NCAA tournament. But I also think it's a whole different era now, too, with social media, that I didn't know a whole lot about Gustavus, and you probably get a little too confident that you have a home game. And we probably should have remembered that they were national runner-up the year before. Mm-hmm. So they were coming in, licking their chops, too. And they took it to us. Mm-hmm. There's no better way to say it. They just took it to us. I definitely wasn't ready. I think Izzy had a great game. It was his senior year. He was going out. This was his last run at it. But as sophomores, you kind of take the time for granted too. Like, oh, we got a couple more years of this. Well, yeah, we got lucky, but looking forward to your coaching career, you never know. Right. You never know. You can get knocked out at any time. So I think after that really woke us up. And then, we added some, credit to the staff. They recruited some really good players. John Kroll comes in, guys like that. And every year you get older and more mature, you understand, but that really woke us up. And to do it at home, I think was even more embarrassing, losing that game at home. And it was a bye too. We had a first round bye. So that's already a second round game, and we lost that. And so it's a sense of embarrassment for sure. And I think that drove us and motivated us. And honestly, I remember that was the first summer after sophomore year that I'd stayed up in Point and lived up in Point. started working up there. And I know Nick was obviously already up there, but we had a good nucleus of guys that stayed up there, and we were just working out ourselves. I mean, playing ourselves. And I think that helped tremendously as well, just because one of the best things, in my opinion, about D3 compared to Division I is you don't have that time to do fall and spring workouts. That's on the captains of the team to, hey, classes are done at 5 o'clock, let's get in and play. And so we knew each other so well. And that started, I believe, right after that loss to Gustavus.
Sure.
Yeah, just to continue off, Jason summarized that season really well. I've told people our sophomore year, that 2002-2003 team probably was more talented than our national title teams, because you add in Josh Iserloth, a 6'9" kid that could shoot lights out, Ron Nolting, who was a heck of a player. So we had maybe more talented, but like Jason said, doesn't mean necessarily you're a better team. Sometimes it's just how teams mesh together, how they figure stuff out together in those defining moments, if you will. But that was a really talented group. And obviously that Gustavus loss, the competitor in you, it still bothers Jason, and it still bothers me. I think, shoot, we're cocky, arrogant old guys now. I still think we could have won 3 national titles if we could have found a way around them. Obviously, it would have taken a lot of work to get there, but we had a heck of a group that year. And that really did kind of springboard us forward for the next 2 years. Like Jason said, that really did give us a chance to kind of rededicate ourselves to what we needed to do and how we were going to figure stuff out. And yeah, that summer, that preseason, that fall, we got in better shape. We figured out how we were going to play better together on both ends of the court. And the best thing that our group did is we didn't let the loss go to our heart. We let it motivate us to hopefully lead us into something better in the future. And we didn't know we were going to win back-to-back national titles. That stuff's never given to you, but we knew what we had to do to at least give ourselves a chance.
Mm-hmm. Well, you set me up perfectly. We go into a junior year, and it, as a basketball guy, and I wasn't here at that time, but as a basketball guy, and then as a historian of where we are, you could just kind of see, where we were going. And Point was probably, I think you could make this comment, the best program in the nation to not have got to the pinnacle, to not have won a national championship yet, and then we get into your guys' junior year, your third year playing, and if you kind of look back, it looked like, as you've said, you were on a different mission that year. You win you win the WIC tournament, you get yourself in, and then we get ourselves into the tournament, and you get Gustavus Adolphus again, who you guys maybe owed one to, and talk to us through. Let's not get to the Final Four yet, but then you also had to get through Lawrence in an 82-81 game. I think that was in Washington, if I'm not mistaken. That first title certainly, and we're going to talk about the Final Four here in a second, but that first title certainly was earned and not given. Talk to us about your junior year and that first chance for the Pointers to say, you know what, we're a national championship program.
Take it.
The funny thing about that year, we were not conference champions. We lost the last game of the regular season at home to Superior, I believe. I don't remember. I think we missed like 15 straight shots in the second half. We were absolutely just not able to connect on anything. We weren't in a rhythm, and we did not win the conference championship that year. River Falls did. And so we knew our only way into the tournament. At that time, I think there was only like 7 or 8 at-large bids. Our only way into the tournament was to win the conference tournament, which we were fortunate enough to do. In that NCAA tournament run, honestly, I kind of I'll try to save the senior year one. They really were different. Our senior year, we played at home the whole tournament until the Final Four, where the junior year, we were running all over the place. We had to drive 6 hours over to Gustavus and play them. Then we had to fly out to Washington. Then we obviously had to fly out to Virginia. So we were all over the place for that run. And I remember we missed a lot of school. We didn't have a lot of time to almost think about what was going on. We were gone a lot for that title run. So that group just, we almost didn't have time to think too much about it. We almost just had to live in the moment, and it really worked out well for us. But the Gustavus game really was our confidence builder. We knew how good they were. They beat us at our place the year before, and they were terrific our junior year again. And when we beat them on their home court, that one really did give us a little confidence, a little motivation going forward, saying, I think we can compete against the best. We can win in a hostile environment. And obviously, we'll talk about the Final Four and stuff if you want there in a little bit. But that Gustavus win on the road really did give us just that extra motivation, I think, to kind of believe in ourselves that we're ready for this challenge.
Yeah, that Gustavus game, and Coach Bennett he'll listen to this and he's not going to be happy, but I think that's the first time I remember being locked into a scouting report. I mean, seriously, like, all right, you guys embarrassed us. I want every piece of information on you. You know, you're a cocky kid going into non-conference games. You're like, oh, we got these guys, or we're not, you're not paying attention. I mean, I just remember a team focus on that one. We knew all the plays that they were going to run, just all their tendencies. And from then on out, I mean, I think I was like, wow, this works. Okay, now we can win. We can win on the road in a hostile environment. But again, that team at that point had been together for so long, other than John Kroll, really as a freshman. I mean, that team we were juniors, Nick and I, and Eric Moss. But that team had been around each other for a long time. So that made the whole travel part a lot easier. You know, there's no traveling in style. Washington was the longest flight we had. But, we're not staying at the Hyatts and I remember this isn't even in the tournament run, but we stayed at a Red Roof Inn in Toledo. And I drove past that thing every day going to work for 9 years. And I was like, what? We stayed here? Like, what is this? So there was, but the team being together and the chemistry was just awesome. And I mean, I think like Nick said, yeah, that took us on that run. And I'll let Nick explain that Lawrence game, but people around Point and our team obviously say that's the greatest game never seen. And it truly is. And the funny thing is, over the years, I've become close with Coach Tharp. He moved on from Lawrence to Hillsdale, which is close to Toledo where I worked. And we talked about that all the time. Every time I saw him, I would see him in the summer quite a bit. And he just said, man, if anybody could watch that game, there'd be an appreciation for it. And you know what? Honestly, the times we're in, that's what arenas could look like with no fans right now. And there's still going to be good basketball no matter what. And that game definitely was. But I'll let Nick talk about that one, because Nick obviously had a special performance in that one. He willed us to overtime. But that was just a heck of a game.
Eric Moss is the one who made the shot. The quietest team I ever had. The best defensive player in the country. And Eric Moss is the one who made the game winner in the Lawrence game. And I will give a special shout out, because I'm sure he'll watch. Kyle Grashinsky gets the special assist from the Gustavus Adolphus game, and maybe the famous play, Brad, that only Pointer super fans would know. We sent 6 players out into the court against Gustavus late in the second half.
Wait. Who's we? You can blame this on your dad right now. You can blame it on him. Go ahead.
There's discrepancies, Brad, in who is to blame. But for a play in the Gustavus game, and we were only up by a couple, so it really would have swung the game. We sent 6 players out into the court. And Kyle Grashinsky is the only one to notice. And he made the greatest backdoor cut along the baseline and ran straight onto the end of the bench. I kid you not. We had 6 guys, and he just ran right along the baseline and just sat down on the bench. And it was like 2 plays later, when there was a foul or something called, and Gustavus was going crazy, complaining, they had 6 guys out on the court. Oh, it's a technical. And there was a rule back then, the ref saying, we know there are 6 guys, but you can't go back and call a technical. So honest to God, Kyle Grashinsky, the greatest backdoor cut that we didn't score on in Pointer basketball.
Yeah, shout out to KG. I think he ran right to the water cooler and grabbed a cup of water. He just kind of played it off like, I'm just going to have a sip over here.
It was unbelievable. So for the Pointer fans that made that journey, they would know. But it was one of those great moments. But it was just such a fun run between that game and then, like Jason said, we played Lawrence in that Elite Eight, 200 or 300 people there. This is before internet broadcast, so everyone had to listen to Scotty announce the game or whatnot. But it was a heck of a contest, and they were a terrific team. So we were lucky to get by them and obviously advance to the Final Four. It was a fun run.
Well, let's go there, guys. We finally get to the Final Four. It'd been, for you guys, 3 and maybe 2 and 3 years to get there, and we win that game. We, an unbelievable game with Lawrence. That, like you said best, the best game in Pointer history nobody saw. Winning that. Now we're in the Final Four. You guys got to quickly fly home, probably change clothes, and then fly back out, right? Because you were going from end to end of the country. We get out and we draw John Carroll in the opener, and it seemed like, we're doing okay here. I mean, I didn't see the game. I haven't seen that game, but the score kind of indicates we probably played pretty well and got ourselves into the national championship game with Williams. And there's a lot of history behind that. Talk to us, you guys, about those 2 games, that John Carroll game opening night, and then what it looked like, the next night going down the stretch to win that game against Williams.
Yeah, so we played Puget Sound in the Sweet 16. That's where we were flying out to. That's where we played. We played Puget Sound in the Sweet 16, then Lawrence in the Elite Eight. So I bring back Puget Sound. They had led the country in scoring in like 2 or 3 straight years. They honestly averaged like 120 a game. They played extremely helter-skelter, just trap everything, go. It was an extremely frenetic pace, and we obviously beat them. And then to get back to the Final Four, nothing against John Carroll, they played a similar style to that where they just tried to press you and try. So we were kind of ready for it. So we had seen a team earlier that kind of just played, we're going to trap you at every chance. We're going to just try to make this game a little bit of chaos. So we were kind of ready for that, and we played really well and obviously beat them. And then to lead to the championship game, Williams is the best team we ever played. They had a Division I roster. I'm tired of ranking these divisions. That team could have won Division I conferences. I'm telling you, they were so talented, so well coached. We actually watched the game of like 6 or 7 of us on Zoom last week. I mean, they didn't miss in the second half, or it didn't seem they missed in the second half against us. It was truly one of those games, just blow for blow, going back and back. Each team was scoring. I think final score was like 82-80, 84-82. Pardon me. Both teams were good defensively, or so we thought, but it really became a shootout. And obviously, Jason made the shot in Pointer basketball history, making a fadeaway jumper to win the national title. But I'll let him explain what the heck was going on in his head and whatnot. But the Final Four run, it was a blast. It was just really living in the moment, just kind of saying, we're here. We didn't think we'd be here, and we're here. So, the caliber of team, you're playing the defending national title, and they are absolutely loaded. And just to have a chance of going down to the wire against them, I can't think of anyone better to give the ball to than Jason Kelso down the stretch. But I'll let him explain his moment.
Yeah, well, I'll jump on the John Carroll game first, and I could be wrong on this too, but I think they had a player named Jerry Angel. Nick, you remember that name?
Yeah.
I think they started the game like he whacked 2 threes right away, so we're down 6-0. Something like that just triggered us. Like, okay, time to play. Like, you're in a bigger arena. There are some more fans, but it's like, all right, wake up. And then then we played, and like Nick said, thankfully they were a pressing team, and we had just come off of that. But yeah, we played, we were confident, but again, we were locked in. I mean, that's just the thing. We knew Williams was good, that we had, obviously they had won the year before. So that was one of those things too. It's like, hey, you have the sophomore year Gustavus in your head. Like, these guys can play. But, Coach Bennett always did he always brought us together, the moment never got too big for us. Do the things that we did all year that got us here, and that's good enough, and that was a heck of a game. I think both teams were very good defensively, but that night, I mean, everybody was there to put on a performance, and I mean, it was a shootout for a while. And like Nick said, they had some really, really good talent, a couple All-Americans, a coach who's gone on now. He's on his second Division I school, Dave Paulson. But, you know, we hung tough. We got down a little bit. We never panicked. We did our thing. Everybody stepped up. And we got down to a situation which I still use as a coaching philosophy. We got a rebound. I actually tripped over my own big feet. There's a common theme here. You know, I'm not real fast. So I tripped over, and they had an open look, but I thought I jumped out like a deer to try to contest it. And I don't think the kid, Tucker Kane, missed all night, but thank God he missed that one. We got the rebound, and coach just let us play. And he called out a little set that was just an action just to get it inside. And the funny thing I tell everybody is, yeah, I took the shot, but I took it because it was tied. If we were down, or I probably would have kicked that thing out to Nick and let him deal with all that. So, no, we just ran a little high-low action. And everybody says, "Oh, what are you thinking? What are you thinking?" I wasn't thinking anything. You're just honestly playing basketball. Just made a quick move. I wasn't even thinking of like time and score, rushing the shot. We just did what we did. And luckily there was only 0.4 seconds left, because had there been a little more time, another dribble, that shot by Michael Crowdy at the end it rimmed in and out. But luckily there was not enough time for it to count. But yeah, we were confident and tight group. And we just did what we did. There was, you know, nobody panicked. Like I said, especially when we were down, but just what a memory, like just being around your teammates and just that, like, and especially personally, I felt so happy for Coach Bennett, because he had been so close. You know, I'm a 20-year-old kid, like, oh, this is easy. This is going to happen all the time, right? Like, and Coach Bennett's had a tremendous career up to that point without having that big one. So, you know, that night, that's all I was happy for, honestly, like, because you just think it's easy, but you're naive and you're dumb. But what an experience.
You know, Coach always says, give it your best and live with it, right? It still hangs on our wall, and you can hear that come out in both of you all the time, is give it your best and be the best you can be and live with that. And you know, so you come off this, you know, and I find this fascinating because I coached my whole career, and you know, I watch teams now as an athletic director, and there's one thing to get to the pinnacle, and that's an amazing and an unbelievable feat. And then there's another thing to try to do it again. You know, and people often say defend it. You're not defending it, because it's a whole new set of circumstances, right? You have new players, new teams. There's nothing to defend. They can't take that from you. And somehow you have to find the motivation to do it again. And, you know, you guys come back into your senior year, and you start by playing Marquette. And if you talk with Coach Bennett privately, he'll say, if things went a little bit differently, we might have had a shot. You know, we play them 5 times. We might get them once. And Marquette was really good. You know, and you both had big games against them. But, you know, you start playing by Marquette and kind of march your way through your senior year. Like you both have said, a little different feel. Now we're at home all the way through the WIC championships, 3 games. And then we get the first 2 games at home. And then we get the second 2 games at home. And we're kind of rolling. But, you know, I want you to touch on the year. But before we get to the Final Four, make sure you talk about that Trinity of Texas game. I mean, people that I know, and I wasn't here, I just listened to the lore of what is Pointer basketball, say that the Trinity of Texas team may have been the second best team in the country. They just caught us in the Elite Eight at home, and what a game that was. So talk to us about your senior year, guys, and what was the repeat national champions.
Well, Nick gets to talk about that Trinity game, because I should have been booed out of the arena. I should have been booed out of Quant. So, Nick, I'm not even going to talk about that game. And if you want, you can get some of our teammates on here. They'll tell you how good I was that night. So we'll let Nick talk about that one.
I'll state this. Jason's being a little modest. He bailed our team out of many situations. And I'll start a friendly debate with Pointer Nation out there listening. I expect mean, nasty emails after this. Jason Kelso is the greatest Pointer athlete of all time. I'll say it again. Jason Kelso is the greatest Pointer athlete of all time.
You just lost everybody.
That includes Terry Porter. That includes Jordan Zimmerman. That includes Clint Crewell, who all went on to fantastic professional careers. I'm not knocking them. I admire them. They are fantastic athletes, and they deserve all their accolades. But when you talk about someone, the 4-year career that they had just for the pointers, Jason Kelso is the greatest pointer of all time. When you talk about a national champion twice, National Player of the Year, 2-time All-American, all-time leading scorer, all-time leading rebounder, no one has had that career for their respective sport like Jason had. So we'll give you one off night, Jason. I think you earned that right. But getting back to our run our senior year, it was really different because we were a little bit of the hunted. When we went on the road, it was a little bit more hostile. Teams were coming after us a little bit more. But I'll be really honest and quite honestly a little arrogant. We were going to win it again our senior year. I really felt if you were going to get us, it was going to have to be a really big effort on someone else's part. Trinity at Texas was excellent. They had 2 6'9" kids that could play. They had 2 guards that were quick and could shoot. They were as talented as could be. And I will thank Pointer Nation. I think our home court almost brought us over the top that night. And that's the benefit you get from having a great regular season. You get to play at home. And that night we ran into a team that was really good, that was playing really well, but we just kind of found a way down the stretch. And so, Jason, one out of a bad 100 games, we'll try to find a way to pick you up there, my man. I think you're doing all right. But it was a heck of a run to get to the Final Four. And I'll be honest, just looking back, it really was a different mentality. Our junior year, it was all new to us. What do we got to do? Our senior year, we knew what it took a little bit. And we really felt if someone's going to get us, they're going to have to play a fantastic game.
Yeah, and I'm just going to go off of Nick here. This is, and you might ask this later, Brad, but what makes Stevens Point so special? I mean, the community. I remember that Lawrence game too, second round, was incredible. I mean, I'm sure we were over fire hazard of the amount of people in that. That gym was filled before we even were able to go out for the 30-minute warm-up. So things like that's what sticks out in my head. It's like that place was rocking. It was hot that night. And Trinity game was the same way. But just like that Williams game, I mean, guys just stepped up and made huge plays. Nick made a shot. He falling down the middle of the lane, kicked it off his head, however it went in. Kyle made an incredible left-handed floating layup. I mean, guys were just stepping up, making plays. And kudos to, was he a redshirt sophomore then, Steve Hicklin, who had to fill in for Tamaris Relaford, who had a broken hand. Unfortunately, T couldn't play that last run. But the poise that Steve had too, so it goes back to the first year. It's just guys, just next man up. Everybody knew their role. Nothing got too big. And like Nick said, it was kind of, I remember, especially non-conference games, it was kind of fun because, and again, not to sound too cocky, but there were teams that you could tell were intimidated to play us right away. Now, we had to go out and play. Mm-hmm. Don't get me wrong. And we respected everybody. I think that was one of the things Coach Bennett, respect all, fear none. That was a big line of his. And that rings true to everybody. You respect all your opponents, but you could tell in some of those games that, like, oh boy, we got to play these guys. And that helps. I'll tell you, that helps. But yeah, that was a great run. I don't even know what else to say. Just the community, like Nick said, and the crowd, that they definitely willed us to that Trinity win, and guys stepping up, making big plays, and then we get to take that trip back to Salem.
Well, and that leads me into, I'm going to combine a couple questions here. We get out back to Salem, you get York and then Rochester. You guys had been used to nail biting, like, we're going to have tough, and we were based on score. We must have clearly been the better team, out there, and the best team out there. But, talk to us about that second Final Four, winning a second national championship. And now, looking back, 15 whatever years later, it ended up being the last game, for both of you guys and for Coach Bennett. Nick, your dad, and but your coach at that time too. If I was going to have a Mount Rushmore of UW Stevens Point, the three of you are on it, and to walk off the court together, as back-to-back national champions. Talk to us through that weekend and what that means to you guys and what makes Stevens Point special with that.
First, I'm not on the Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore is the 4 best. I'm not on the Mount Rushmore of Stevens Point basketball, and that's okay. I don't say that with humility. It's just I'm not. There's plenty more than 4 names you could find before me. But that weekend, you have to understand, especially for guys like me, Jason could have gone on and played a longer professional career if he wanted, but he knew his passion was he wanted to try coaching. So for guys like me, for guys like that are on Rochester and York, you kind of know this is it. So honestly, for me, I never had like a moment where I was like, this is the last time you're ever going to put on. I didn't have a moment like that, but in the back of my mind, I knew this is going to be the end of it. I'm not, fortunate I have my dad's vertical and his lateral quickness, so I was not going to go on to an illustrious professional career. So for that, I didn't look at it with any somber views or anything. I really felt we're going to go out here and play our tails off a couple more times. We're going to give it 80 more minutes of the best basketball we've got in us. And we did that. We did that with great confidence. We did that with great respect for our opponent. So I know the final score. People say you dominated. We just went out there and tried to play pointer basketball and tried to play the best that we could. It didn't matter, like Jason said, it didn't matter if that was a non-conference. It didn't matter if that was the Final Four. It didn't matter if that was Marquette. With all due respect, we were going to go out there and try to win, try to play the best basketball that we know how. So, just playing really good basketball the last 2 games of your career on the Final Four, it's a great send-off. It's a great send-off for the staff. It's a great send-off, obviously, for the players and the seniors included. But that was always our goal. For that 40 minutes, when that ball got tipped to the final horn, let's play the best basketball that we know how on both ends of the court. And we were lucky enough to do that on quite a few occasions.
And I'll share a quick little story that I think Pointer fans will enjoy too. The championship game is probably, 10-minute mark, the second half is when I knew we had the thing wrapped up. I knew that early. I was leaning over the free throw line and next to Rochester's All-American, Seth Halbin, and he leaned over, and this is a big boy. He said, "Are you guys ever going to miss?" And it was over. And now, to his credit, I think we came out the second half and made 9 of our first 10 shots or some ungodly number. But he said that, and those last 10 minutes, I was like, okay, this is just don't screw it up. Not just have fun, but don't screw it up. But we had him that early, and that's, I thought that was a unique thing. And yeah, Nick is absolutely right too, that you never have that final, oh man, this is the last game. This is it. But you just you live in the moment and you think you can do it forever. And I don't know, I'm not going to speak for Nick, but I think that helped me in my coaching career. That guys, anytime you talk to a team, guys, you never know. I've seen it where you think you're really good losing to Gustavus, but then, you could go on and win it. But I think I've cried more in coaching because you see a kid play their last game, and I never had that feeling of such sadness that it's over because we ended on such a high note. But in my coaching career, I never made the NCAA tournament. We won a couple conference championships and that was great, but you feel so bad because you've seen that high and you've been that high of high, and then you see other kids that it's just over. And that always killed me at the end of the year. It killed me this year. It was the first year I was with the high school team out here, and some seniors walking away who were great kids. It's like, wow. They get to go play college hoops, but it's like, man, I never had that feeling.
Well, fellas, we're going to transition into a couple last questions here. Taking a look at both of your careers, I think it'd be fair to say that winning follows you guys around a little bit, but that isn't, certainly by chance. My understanding, and I've got to know each of you now as an athletic director, and you guys being alums and great alums, but when you talk to people around here, your off-season stuff was legendary. Things that, you hope all athletes could take on. Talk to us about, you'd mentioned it. You'd said, this was, Jason, you said you hadn't even unpacked and we're playing. But, and that's still Pointers. the way that we go about things. But you guys both have said there was just a different mindset, maybe after that sophomore year, of what it really takes, not what it takes, but what it really takes to be a champion. And talk to us guys about, and when I mean that is towards our current and our future pointers. What does it take? I mean, what does it really take in the off season to get to where you guys ended?
I mean, personally, I think the best teams and teams that win the most and the most consistent are self-coached. Obviously, we had a legendary coach, but we took that humble loss to Gustavus, and Nick's too humble for this. But I mean, I've been around the top 3 shooters that I've been around. 2 of them have worn the Pointer uniform, and the best shooter I've been around is right there below me on the screen. I mean, you threw it to Nick, it was going in. Like, you didn't worry about it. Like that, you mentioned some records.
I also wasn't passing it back either.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. I mean, if I better take the shot if I had it, otherwise I wasn't getting it back. But you mentioned some leading scorer, leading rebounder. That only happens with more games that you played. I mean, we went on 3 long runs in the NCAA tournament. So that's why there's those points. But, I had a ton of assists too, because you just throw it to guys like Nick, who he's not missing. He's not missing. He's the best shooter I've played with and or coached against or with. Another kid from Coach Matt Toledo was number 3, and number 2 in that list is Pete Rortvedt, who we were fortunate to coach after we graduated. Those 3 guys, I mean, but Nick did that by hours and hours and hours in the gym. I think Nick was a ultimate lead by example guy. He got us in the gym. It's one of my biggest regrets, probably not doing enough individual workouts. Nobody did them more than Nick. And I'm sure Nick learned that from Tony, because you hear great stories of Tony doing that. But Nick was always in the gym. I was more of let's get the guys together to play, because I wanted to I was kind of crazy in the head, wanted just to win something. I didn't feel like I could win just shooting all the time, but Nick put in those hours. And I mean, that's what it was. It was just constant working out in between classes. But the beauty of Point is we had the total student athlete package. We have a great campus life where there's not too many students, not too little students. The faculty was great, like Nick said, accommodating us on those long trips. And then obviously the community support is second to none, and that's what makes Point a special place. But really, what it takes is just dedication, maybe sometimes getting your butt kicked, but obviously guys like Nick, who made himself into the All-American that he was. I mean, that's what drove everybody else. You get in the gym, you work out, and then we played. I just think we knew each other so well, like our timing and where guys liked the ball and how guys cut. I mean, I knew Eric and I played off of each other quite a bit. He had a great feel of which way I was going, and I mean, I could find him all the time, and just it was really cohesive to get in there and just play all the time.
Yeah, the off-season stuff, it's key. I already feel like we're the old guys, Jason, when we talk about this. I try to tell our guys, like our high school guys now, don't worry about if there's a highlight out on you. Don't worry about videotaping yourself on your online training. I don't really get the benefits of filming yourself practicing. I pardon me for the people that get really excited about that stuff. You got to put in work. And it's hard in the summer. It's hard when you're Division III and we're working full time in the summer. And, but we had a group that said, no, we're going to get better together. We're going to play pickup 3 or 4 times a week in the summer. We're going to go lift. We're going to work on our conditioning. We're going to work on our skills. It takes a lot of work to be good. I wish there was a easy formula for it, but it's a lot of time. It's a lot of commitment, and we had a group that did that. And the second thing that I really think gets lost in the shuffle, and it's funny that we're sitting here talking to Jason and I again, and Jason and I were fortunate enough to get a lot of the individual accolades and stuff like that. But let me tell you, our team was so good because of our depth and because of everyone accepting their role. Eric Moss is the best defender I have ever played with. He was as good as any high major guy. He was 6'9". He moved his feet. He bothered shots. he was such a good defensive player, and he just accepted this is what's going to make us better. I mean, Tamaris Relaford was Conference Player of the Year in high school, and he just accepted, I got to get the ball moving around. I got to be a great defender. We had off the bench a Big Ten recruit. Kyle Grushinski played for the Badgers. I don't know a lot of Division III teams that have a guy of that skill level, that talent, that athletic ability that come off the bench. And then obviously we have John Krull, Brian Bauer. We just had so many guys that were state champions, that were great players, that if they were on a different team in our league, they're averaging 15 to 20 points a game. They're scoring just like Jason and I. But they just said, we have to accept our role. We have to do what we're going to do best to make us just a little bit better. And they bought into it. And that is not easy to do. And when everyone wants to have the headlines, everyone wants to get the accolades. So as Jason and I sit here 15 years later and we still get a chance to talk about this, I hope any of our teammates or the fans know we're talking on behalf of our whole program from back then. We're just the ones that get to be the face of it. Unfortunately, this probably shouldn't be the face of it right now with this beard, but we're the ones that still get to talk about it a little bit more. But we had a program that really bought in, and that's what made us special.
Well, fellas, thank you for taking the time. What's customary in this Wisdom Wednesday is I always leave the parting words to the guests. So, we'll do that once again, and I'll come in and just one line close it. But, in these unprecedented times, Pointer basketball and Pointer athletics is still really, we're one of the top 15 programs in the country, without a doubt. We're in the mix there. And, as you guys look back 15 years later, talk to us, I guess, leave us your final words, your final message here on Wisdom Wednesday. So I'll turn it over to the two wise guys, if you want to call it that. Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, Nick. You want to take it?
I think with time comes just a little bit more perspective. It doesn't change anything. You can't change the past. You can't change history. So when we look back, we're still very proud. We still keep in touch. Like I said, we did a Zoom where we watched the title game. We still talk about and we follow each other's careers and all this stuff. But as you get older, it does matter to us and it does mean something to us because basketball is a great team sport. You have to do it together. And I'm happy to say we did it. We did it in a place that we're very fond of. UWSP for me was different. I grew up in the town. I'm a Spash kid. Obviously, I needed my mom to cook me dinner and do my laundry. Everyone says my dad recruited me. My mother was the best recruiter of the group, making her lasagna. But for me, doing it, being a hometown kid, doing it for a place that I'm very fond of, doing it for fans that I'm very fond of, doing it for obviously teammates who I love, it just makes it special. And I mean this, if we wouldn't have won titles, I'd feel the same way. Because we won national titles, it makes it a little bit sweeter when we look back on our playing days. But if we would have lost to Gustavus our junior year, if Trinity of Texas would have beaten us our senior year, I would still look back with great memories of our teammates, of our playing days and what we accomplished. So for Pointer Nation, even when we're far away, I've worked in Florida, I've been in Texas. I know Jason's in California. He's been in Ohio. We're still following the scoreboard. I'm still following Pointer football. I still check the scores on Saturdays to see how they're doing. We're still checking out how the programs are competing, and we're still cheering from afar. So the fact that we were just a part of such a special athletic program and a place that we were able to call home and be such a big part of what we did and what's made us unique. It was a great ride. It was a lot of fun, and we're still proud Pointers.
Yeah, and this is something that I left with all the teams that I coached is do it for the guy next to you. Honestly, be the best teammate that you can be, because we talked about some details here, some games, and I remember them. I don't remember most of them, but the thing that I miss the most, I've said this 1,000 times, is my teammates. Miss them all dearly. Miss the practices, miss the camaraderie in the locker room after, miss the goofy bus rides, the dumb things you do as a kid in a hotel room, right? So do it for that. There's so much outside noise these days, but there's only a handful of guys in that locker room, and And that's what I remember the most. I mean, if you can give me the high of a national championship back, I'm not going to turn it down, but give me 3 or 4 days of just practice. And that includes Coach Bennett's jump ropes. that includes things that you might not understand when you're that young, but these are guys that hopefully are going to be in your wedding. These are guys that you're going to Zoom when a pandemic hits in 15 years. This is guys that you check in with all the time, guys that you razz and call somebody, text them. I mean, I try to do that. We're all at fault if we don't do that enough, but be the best teammate you can, because that's what you're going to miss the most, in my opinion.
Well, fellas, thanks again. Great message. Pointer fans will be back next Wednesday with another edition of Wisdom Wednesday. Thanks, fellas. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for having us.